Live with today's morning power up call. I'm excited to have you guys here today. I personally have kind of a crazy busy day ahead of me, a little more chaotic and wild than normal. So I'm excited to have this moment of normalcy before it all goes crazy. Personally, I enjoy the craze, I enjoy the wild, I enjoy the new challenges and the new opportunities. But it is good to have a little foundation, a little moment where I can gather together with you guys as HU students and we can across the globe, whether you're in Europe, Asia, Africa, United States, Canada, wherever, Latin America, doesn't matter. Or even if you're in that penal colony of Australia, we can all gather together, pause for just a few minutes during our day, align our focus, align our minds towards the ultimate goal that you are all progressing towards. And that's to become a man of freedom, a man of power, a man of options, and a man of abundance. And as we align ourselves, for me to share a few thoughts, a few ideas that can propel you towards that bright and wonderful future faster, more enjoyably, and quicker, so that you can achieve that dream sooner, to be a better version of yourself and a better light to those around you, right? Now, enough of all the big old purpose and vision stuff. Let's talk about nitty gritty today, right? I teased the idea of a Q&A session you can hold with yourself, a transformative one, a powerful one. But all this comes down to, it's all based off of a quote that I heard a long time ago when I was a young man that has been extremely valuable for me. And I remind myself of it often. And the great Tony Robbins, those of you who don't know Tony Robbins, he was a self-development guy. He was an NLP dude back in the day. Did a lot of big seminars. He's like a giant. He's like 6'5", 6'7". He's giant, big, ugly looking dude. But he taught a lot of really powerful principles. Still does it to a degree. But he has a really impactful quote, one that I heard and I've stuck with me since I was a young man, and it's been pivotal. A few key moments in my life, I pulled this quote out of my mind, and I've used the principle in there to find new ways to move forward faster. And the quote goes something like this. I'm going to paraphrase. He said something along the lines of that the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your questions that you ask yourself. So the quality of your life is directly related or proportional to the quality of questions that you ask yourself. Now, if you pause and think about this, you'll realize that it's a very true, basic statement. Nothing too crazy. It's not controversial. I don't think too many people would get riled up or think that it's not true. However, hardly anyone actually applies this lesson, which is a shame because it's been really valuable to me. But before we dive into some of the powerful questions you can ask, especially within the context of this program, I want to talk with you guys about the sort of foundational implication that this phenomena rests upon, or I guess sort of the lesson, the deeper lesson that you can pull from this quote. And I've always been fascinated by this, and I don't know why more people don't freak out and think that this is insanely cool. But you can ask yourself questions. Like I don't know why. Wait a second. Let's take a look. It's gonna make sure the chat is good. No one is saying anything about problems with audio. Okay, cool. I wanted to double check. The fact that you can ask yourself a question and get an answer is crazy to me. Think about it, right? You're one individual person, but you can hold a conversation inside of your head, a dialogue, and get answers. That's strange. That's absolutely strange, right? We're not insane. This is part of the human experience. You see, inside of your mind, there's actually multiple entities floating around. And I'm not talking like multiple personalities or anything like that, but there are different parts of your brain, different capacities within your brain for thought. And we've talked about this before on the call. You've got the will, you've got the director, the observer, the part of your brain that is in control ultimately, or can be ultimately in control. And then you have the self, right? The subconscious self, right? Which is sort of everything else, your memories, your thoughts, your learned behaviors, all of those things, right? And no one completely understands the subconscious mind. It's like this giant, powerful thing that just exists inside of your consciousness or inside of your mind. The interesting thing is that will can ask the subconscious questions, and the subconscious can spit out answers, right? And we don't really know how that part works. It's like a giant black box, but it does work, and it's really cool. So if you ask yourself certain questions, the subconscious mind will, whatever questions you ask yourself, really, the subconscious mind takes and runs with and tries to figure it out and solves for it, right? And it'll spit back the answer to you. This is really cool. This is a cool principle. It's a cool phenomenon. It's how creativity works. It's how a lot of cool things happen in this world. But most people don't weaponize this to its highest and fullest form. If you're not careful and deliberate about the kind of questions you send your subconscious, you're not going to be in control of the outcomes or the answers that it spits out, right? If you ask a smart question to your subconscious, you get a smart answer. You ask a dumb question, you'll get a very dumb answer. And what kind of brought this idea on and the idea of sharing on our morning power up was the other day I was talking with a student and he's like, hey man, like I've got like a week left on my membership and like, I don't know if I'll be able to pay the next month's membership. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I practice copywriting outside of HU? And that was his question. Well, he was asking me, but he was asking this to himself. How do I practice copywriting outside of HU or outside of the copywriting campus? And I was like, my friend, that's the wrong question to ask, right? You're going to get an answer, but that answer isn't going to be nearly as helpful as if you ask another question. And that is, how do I find a way to stay inside of HU so that I can keep learning copywriting as quickly and efficiently as possible? And we discussed some options. If any of you guys are in that same boat, I highly recommend you go over to the freelancing campus. You go to Dylan Madden's flipping course. No matter where you are in the world, you can use that to keep and just, you're not going to get rich off of it. You're going to hit $10K a month off of it, but you'll always be able to pay your HU membership if you follow the stuff that he talks about in the freelancing flipping course. So go check that out if you're in that boat. Because yeah, it might take you a month, 2 months to get your copywriting stuff dialed in. No worries. Go do that. Earn yourself an extra 50, 100, 200, 300 bucks a month doing that while you're learning to make the big bucks of copywriting. Anyways, but it was extremely interesting to me because this young man was asking himself a question, right? You will get an answer. When you ask yourself a question, you will always get an answer. So if you ask yourself questions that can give you amazing winning answers, you'll get amazing winning answers. But if you ask low-minded questions with low targets, you'll only get a low answer back, right? Sure, maybe there's an answer. There's some way you can get 2% of the benefit that you would have gotten if you were in the copywriting campus out there by yourself. But why ask a question that can only get you a 2% payoff? Why not ask you a question that gets you 150, 200, 300% payoff, right? Which is what I helped the young man do. So we've explored this concept. We've talked about how it works. Now I'm going to talk about how you can actually apply it in your life. If you were to ask yourself a question like this, you could ask yourself, if I had to get 2 clients in the next month, 100%, if I knew I had to do it, like the gun to the head question is kind of an example of this. Gun to the head, I had to get 2 clients in the next 30 days. What would I have to do to get 2 clients in the next 100 days, in the next 30 days? If you ask yourself that question and sit there and actually pause and write out your answer, I guarantee you will have a clear idea of what you need to do in order to be more successful than you are now. That question will give you a new answer and it will increase the quality of your life, right? And you can do this across all sorts of stuff. You can also ask, I like to ask myself, what if questions? Like, what would happen if? Because it's not salesy, I'm just talking with myself, right? I like to ask myself, what would happen if I spent 2 hours a day doing prospecting in a completely brand new niche? What would happen if I spent 2 extra hours a day on that? Or what would happen if for the next 24 hours, I blew off all other responsibilities and just focused on going through the boot camp? Let's say it's a weekend or something like that. You ask yourself these sort of what if questions, and you might discover that there's some sort of really cool outcome that you can do if you just attempt something kind of crazy or something unique. There are lots of questions you can ask yourself. And I want you to pay attention to the ones you're currently asking yourself. And I want you to come up with powerful questions that you can start asking yourself to get powerful answers, right? If there's a classic example of this, Peter Thiel in the book 0 to 1, which is an old school book on business and economics and stuff. Peter Thiel was a big time VC. He invested in Facebook and a couple other really big ones. So he made a lot of money. But he had this question he would ask guys, and he's like, what's your 10-year goal? And I tell him, oh, my 10-year goal is to be whatever, do this. And he's like, why can't you do that in 6 months? And they would rapidly condense, like people would find ways to, even if they didn't hit their full 10-year goal, to compress like almost a decade of work and success down into 6 months. You guys can ask yourself a similar question on the time frame thing. What if, what if instead of, like I kind of like the next 30 days thing, like, hey, maybe in like a 6 month goal is to have 4 high paying clients that give me 10,000 months. Why can't I do that in 3 months? What would I have to do to get that same thing in 3 months? You can ask yourself these questions and you can identify gaps that you can immediately close. The quality of questions you ask yourself will determine the quality of your life. So I would like each of you to take this principle and run with it. I want you to think of questions you can ask yourself that will give you a insight in how to move forward faster, right? If you're in a legion, you could say, what would I have to do personally in order to ensure that my legion wins this next competition? Or what could I do to give my legion the highest chance possible to win this competition? Or if you're in the boot camp, what do I have to do to finish the boot camp in the next 3 days? Just ask yourself that question and you'll find an answer. Like your brain will give you an answer. And that's the weirdest thing about this is you've already have the answer sort of lying inside of your mind. It just takes the question to unlock it, right? Every great thing, every great outcome you have in your life, generally speaking, your subconscious knows how to go out there and get it. You just have to ask it to do so and ask it in the right way with the right question. It's crazy stuff. It gets deep, deep psychology stuff. You can use this with your selling too. You can ask your readers better questions and they will get better answers that will help lead them towards purchasing your product. This idea of asking questions and asking the right questions is universally applicable. Like almost anything I share in one of these daily power ups, this is a universally applicable concept that if you apply it can transform your life and the lives of those you care about and those you're trying to help. So take this principle, ask yourself better questions, watch yourself get better results. We've got a lot of cool things in store for the rest of the day. Those of you who are just starting your morning, take this energy, take these ideas, use it to execute. Those of you who just finished your day, get it all set and ready so you can hit tomorrow with more power and more ferocity and more success. This has been a good call. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.